Hi, my name's Matthew Belzer, and I'm going to be your instructor this semester. If you're watching this, you're probably a student in my A&PII class at Austin Community College over the fall semester of 2021. The purpose of this video is to get you oriented to the class, highlight some important things about our learning management system, and to help you get started so you can be successful in the course. So the first thing I want to highlight is Blackboard is going to be where everything is run out of. That's where you're going to find all of the videos, all of the lectures, all of the labs. This is where you're going to be submitting assignments. This is where you're going to be taking exams using the Respondus Lockdown browser. So whenever you log into Blackboard, and everybody should have access to Blackboard, you're going to be directed to what's called the announcements page. The announcements page is your point of entry. It's where I do all of my communicating with you from. So all of the communication that I'm going to do this semester, my weekly communications just to make sure you're tracking with the class, after I'm done grading, etc. Everything is going to be done through the announcements page. Now, the nice thing about the announcements page is when I make an announcement, it's automatically sent to your ACC emails. Now, you have an orientation quiz, and that's really sums up question one. Think all of the above there. Now, we have Zoom link to lectures. We're going to get into the schedule in just a moment, but when you think about the way that lectures are set up, I'm not using Blackboard Collaborate because I've had problems with that in the past. I'm using Zoom. And some of you are probably registered for my Monday, Wednesday morning and my Monday, Wednesday night classes. Now, we are only going to meet one time a week. Now, that meeting is going to be long, but we are just going to meet one time a week. So if you're registered for my Monday night class, if you click that link, it'll direct you to the Zoom meeting that's happening. If you have to dial in or something, I've given you all of the information further on down. Now, I don't care if you're registered for a Monday night class because we're doing one session a week, 4 hours. One session a week, 4 hours. I don't care if you're registered for Monday and you come to Wednesday, or if you're registered for Wednesday and you come to Monday that week. I'm going to take attendance for both classes in both sessions, so you can choose which one that you want to attend. That's completely fine. But the Zoom link for the Monday night synchronous session can be found here, and for the Wednesday morning, it's not at the same time. I've had a lot of students go, oh, I thought they were at the same time. It's not at the same time. We have a Monday night session and an identical Wednesday morning session. So make sure that you're logging into the right one. You can choose which one fits your schedule more accordingly. All of our synchronous sessions are going to be either on Monday or Wednesday. They're identical sessions. So this is where you find the Zoom link to those across the board. Now, if you go to the tools page, there are a lot of different tools, but the tool that I think is most important is My Grades. And if you click on My Grades, it'll bring up everything you've completed. Once you're done with a quiz, like the orientation quiz, once you hit submit, this number right here will go from being a kind of grayed out number to being a blue hyperlink. If you click on that and then go to that blue hyperlink, you can actually access what you got wrong and right on quizzes. You won't be able to do that for exams, but you can do that for quizzes, just so you know. So the most important tool to me by a long shot is the My Grades tool, because that's what's going to allow you to track with what's going on with the class. Now, there are a few other tools here, like you can send anybody in the class an email, or you can send the entire class an email with this Send Email tool. You can view a list of enrolled users. So there are a lot of different things, but yes, most often My Grades is going to be the most important tool for you to use. Now, the course evaluation link, this tab right here, will not become relevant until later in the semester. I'll send out an announcement. There are only a couple of different ways to earn extra credit in the class. One is attending the weekly sessions, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. And the other is the course evaluation. And that course evaluation, again, will crop up later in the semester. And at that time, I'll walk you through how to submit that evaluation information for extra credit. Instructor information. So this is my name. This is my title. This is my email address. And the first session of each semester, I always make required. So either come to the Monday night or the Wednesday morning session. Make sure you look at what time those are happening. Now, the first week, attendance is mandatory because I like to get everybody off to the same start. I want people, understanding the requirements of the course, knowing how much material is going to be piled on them early. I want you guys there. Moreover, we're doing our first lab that day, and attendance is what's going to get you those lab points. I don't do makeup labs, so coming that first day is going to be important. Now again, even though this class is Monday, Wednesday, I have a night class and I have a day class, we're only going to be meeting one day a week. We're going to be meeting either on Monday nights from 4:30 to 8:50 p.m. and you can find the Zoom link to those lectures there. Those links will be good throughout the entire semester. Or you can attend on Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 1:20 p.m. Once a week, they're going to be identical sessions. I am going to take attendance for both of those. Another thing that you find under instructor information is the web link to the biology website. You can find tutoring hours here, the passwords for the Zoom sessions because they've made them password protected because we've had problems, etc. So that's instructor information. Now, syllabus and schedule, we're going to spend a little bit of time on. Not a ton of time, but I definitely want to walk you through what's happening here and point out important things for you. So, when you think about the syllabus, here's your instructor. My name, my phone number at ACC. I wouldn't ever try to contact me that way. I've been here for 10 years and I don't think I've ever checked the email on that or the voicemail. And then my email address. If you email me during the weekdays, I'll get back to you pretty darn quickly. Now, the information down here is for the morning class and the night class. So my morning class technically meets Monday, Wednesday, right? From either 9 to 10:30 or from 9 to 1:20 p.m. Now, the first session on Wednesday, August 25th from 9 a.m. to 1:20 p.m. is required, right? So this is where the first lab is going to be administered, and your attendance that day is going to get you those 15 lab points. After that, we'll meet once a week on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 1:20 p.m. Those sessions are not mandatory, but they will be worth 3 points of extra credit apiece. If you multiply 3 by 16, if you're attending those each week, not only are you going to have a pretty good idea of what to expect for the exam, and you're going to create study networks and study partners. And I've noted that people who attend these sessions tend to do much better than people who don't, right? So there's a lot of benefits to attending the sessions each week. Now, for my night class, the first session is going to be on Monday, August 23rd from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. Again, you can access the Zoom links to those meetings using that tab in Blackboard I just showed you. And the first session from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Monday, August 23rd is required. And then this class will meet once a week on Mondays from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. Now, is it okay if you're in my Wednesday class to attend the Monday session because that works better for you? Yes. Is it okay if you're in my Monday class to attend the Wednesday session because that works better for you? Yes. They are identical sessions, right? Session 1, Session 2, but they're the same. We're going over the same content that day. And I will take attendance for both my morning and night class in each one of those sessions. So you're not going to be missed if you're there to just say, hey, I'm here today when I take attendance. Now, the course structure, synchronous weekly class sessions. A&PII is a super memory intensive course. You have a lot of material coming at you very quickly. I am a classically trained physiologist, so the focus of A&PII is not going to be as much on the anatomy as it was in A&P1. It's going to be much more on the physiology, and that can be conceptually dense and mentally fatiguing for students. I would highly recommend coming to those synchronous weekly class sessions, participating and doing the best you can. You're going to get a pretty good idea of what to expect on exams. We're going to do a lot of practice problems, etc. during that time. I'm not doing that to be a jerk or waste your time. I'm doing that because I want you to know what to expect. Now, there's an orientation quiz, and There will be an orientation quiz over the course syllabus, the schedule, and what we're going over here. It's going to be worth 10 points, and you have to complete this quiz by the end of the first week, so that's going to be Sunday, August 28th is going to be the end of the first week. Now, remember again, and I'm thinking back to the questions, each one of these extra credit sessions is going to be worth 3 points apiece, and there's going to be 16 of them throughout the course of the semester. They're going to be on Monday nights from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. or Wednesday mornings from 9:20 to 1:30 p.m. They are worth extra credit, and the platform we are using for them is Zoom, and you can find those Zoom links again under that tab in Blackboard. Then we have content quizzes. So we're essentially going over 12 chapters this semester, and each chapter has a quiz worth 20 points associated with it. When we look at the Unit 1 material, it'll be very easy to find those quizzes, and it'll make a lot of sense. Then we have asynchronous labs. These labs you're going to be doing, for the most part, with the exception of Lab 1, you're going to be doing on your own, and then you're going to be submitting them using the link that I provide, and we'll walk through that when we get into the actual course material. Now, there are 11 labs. Each one is worth 15 points apiece for a total of 165 points in the class. Now, the recommended textbook is the Merriam 11th edition Anatomy and Physiology textbook. My lectures parallel very closely with the content in the textbook. If you're somebody who prefers reading, I highly recommend you get that textbook or even an older edition of that textbook and read those chapters ahead of time, because the information will sink in much more effectively if you're doing that. Important email information. If you're sending me an email, make sure to include your name and the course information. I have 150 students. If you just say, hey, I won't be in class. Well, is that A&PII, A&PII, Intro Biology, or Intro to A&PII? I have no idea what you're talking about. Give me your name and the course information, and then follow it with a brief email about whatever it is you want. If you're not going to make it, or something has come up, or you have a sick family member or something like that is going on, but make sure you let me know who you are. Now, the orientation, that's what you're doing right now. This is the orientation to the course. So all of the information in the quiz is going to be covered during this orientation. And in fact, we're on question 4 because I just have the quiz questions right here and I'm just reading off. So I'll just say, hey, this is going to be important for the quiz. You have to get that first orientation quiz done by August 28th. Otherwise, I will withdraw you from the class for failure to complete those things, because I want you to know exactly what the expectations are. Now, course description, you can read through that, skills and prerequisites. I don't usually check those unless somebody starts falling really far behind, but most people in A&PII meet that. If you do start falling really far behind, I will check those, and maybe we can have a conversation about some developmental courses instead. The common course objectives for the class can be found using that link right there. You're going to see that my common course objectives are essentially the same as anybody else who teaches A&PII. The course rationale, we're trying to improve your understanding of anatomy and physiology and hone your scientific thinking. Now, it says the required/recommended textbook for the course. I don't require a textbook, but the reason I put required in there is because those people who are on Capital IDEA, which is a scholarship program, can only get their textbooks paid for if the syllabus indicates that it's required. So that's why I slapped that in there. So the recommended textbook for the course is Merriam Human Anatomy and Physiology 11th edition. I've provided the ISBN number. You're welcome to purchase that book or an older edition, right? You can purchase the 10th edition or the 9th edition if you can find it cheaper. The chapters for each of those are indicated within the schedule that we're going to be looking at. The book is very good. Now, for those of you who can't afford a textbook but enjoy reading, I've also put a link to what's called the OpenStax textbook. The OpenStax textbook is an A&P textbook. It is not nearly as good as the Merriam textbook, but it is free and you can download it as a PDF if you want that reading background. Again, I highly recommend the Merriam textbook. Now, What are you going to need in this class? You're going to need access to the internet and Blackboard because all of the course material is going to be available through that. In fact, if you're taking an online class, that should be an obvious. There are 12 core topics in this course. So each core topic is going to be covered via a series of lectures and guided notes, right? Handouts, what I call lecture handouts. And even though the lecture handouts are not required to be completed, they are your study guides for exams. I don't make you do those lecture handouts, but good golly, if you want to do well on an exam, I'd make sure that you can do a lecture handout from top to bottom without actually referring back to your notes by the time the exam crops up. It's a study tool for you. And I would highly recommend, because we have so many handouts, getting 1.5 to 3-inch 3-ring binder, 12 tabs, and separating out those tabs based on content so it makes it easier to organize. The tabs should be labeled endocrine, blood, heart, blood vessels, lymphatic, immune, respiratory, digestive, metabolism, urinary, male and female reproductive. I recommend 3-hole punching those handouts and having them in an easily accessible place because it'll be easy to study, right? It'll just organize your thoughts a little bit more. Now, the campus is opening up a little bit. The library is open. You don't have to go there. There are protocols up. I would link to the library website. Testing using the Respondus Lockdown browser. The tests are going to be open for essentially 3 days. We start on Friday at 8 a.m. and then they close Sunday at 11:59 p.m. That's how most of the tests are going to go, with the exception of the last week, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Quizzes, you do not need the Respondus Lockdown browser for. Exams, you will need the Respondus Lockdown browser. It's like any other browser. It's like Internet Explorer or Google Chrome. It's an internet browser that just prevents you from going to other sites while you're using it, and it also is going to open up your camera and your mic. That is a requirement of this class. It was clearly stated in the syllabus. I've clearly stated it now, and in the course description I said, hey, I use the Respondus Lockdown browser. Now, if you're going to email me, make sure you email me from your ACC email. If I do not get back to you on an email and you've emailed me from an external source because that's a cybersecurity thing, I will not get back to you. Use your ACC emails to communicate with me. Use your ACC emails to communicate with me. So grading. Exams. We have 4 exams worth 175 points apiece. They're going to be split into 2 sections. There's going to be the multiple choice questions and there's going to be the short answer questions. People do pretty well typically on the multiple choice section. They tend to struggle on the short answer section. Just to give you a heads up, short answer sections of the exam, I would make sure you have at least 2.5 to 3 hours to take those, right? They are comprehensive. We're not doing lab practicals, so I've bundled a lot into those short answer segments of the exam. So we have 4 exams. We have 4 units. Each exam is going to cover each unit. I do not do a comprehensive final. You can look at the exam format and all of those things there. Asynchronous labs, 11 worth 15 points a pop. With the exception of Lab 1, which is going to be done that first day of class, which is a required day, and that's how you're going to get those 15 points. And then 12 lecture quizzes at 20 points apiece for a total of 240 points. Here's the grading. Now, I did not factor the weekly study sessions into the total number of points because the weekly study sessions are extra credit. And I highly recommend attending those because if you're hoping that, I don't need to attend those, I'll just get 95s on exams. My exams have a bad way of humbling people very quickly. So my exams are long, they're dense, and you really got to know your stuff. Every extra point can make the difference between an A and a B in a class like this. So attendance isn't required, right? But if I would highly, highly recommend attending the weekly study session, right, which is going to be more like a lecture with a Q&A. And periodically, I'll break you into small groups to work with one another on problems that become relevant to the exams. Withdrawals, I will only withdraw you if you miss a certain amount of material, like you don't complete the orientation quiz or you miss a unit exam or something like that. But for the most part, I leave the responsibility of withdrawing up to you. So you make the decision about whether you want to continue in the course or not, whether you want to protect your GPA. I'm going to be sending out grade announcements periodically, and that'll give you a good idea of where you're at and how to proceed and what you want to do. So I can auto withdraw you, but usually that burden is put on you. 6-drop rule, 3-drop rule, you can read about. Incompletes, I will only issue an incomplete if every single one of those criteria are met. The department takes incompletes very seriously, so I don't issue them frivolously. I make sure that the person who's asking for an incomplete has earned it, has met all the criteria, because it is a bit of a process. Now, use of ACC email. Again, email me from your email address, include your name and include the course information. Scholastic integrity, don't cheat. Students' rights and responsibilities, you have the right to have differing opinions. Just voice them in a cordial way. Academic freedom, you can absolutely disagree with something that I say or formulate your own opinion. Again, let's communicate with one another respectfully, and that's all we really have to do. Students with disabilities. Students Accessibility Services, if you belong there, email me. It's nobody's business but your and mine, and I will follow those accommodations to the letter. Student and Instructional Services, you can read through all this, like the ACC COVID policies, etc. Many of them aren't relevant to the class, but they're required to be in the syllabus, and those are kind of the main points of the syllabus that I want to take away. Now, the syllabus is a darn important document, but now while the syllabus is an important document, see that flawless editing? The almost more important document from just a day-to-day perspective in the class is the schedule. Now you'll notice I always upload it in Word and PDF format. PDF is more easily accessed by more digital devices, so I like to do that for y'all. And if you come down to the schedule, you'll see that there's highlighting and lettering. And then when we come down, we have Unit 1. We have the week, the date, the topic, homework, and readings, and the lab topic. So in week 1, the work you're supposed to be doing on your own is you go to Unit 1 material, which we're going to look at in just a minute, and you should, by the end of week 1, have watched Lecture 1, done the handout, Lecture 2, done the handout, and Lecture 3, and done the handout. Now, I don't formally evaluate those handouts, but my goodness, they are an important preparatory tool for the exam. Get in the habit of doing them. I promise you'll do much better in the course. The live Zoom session is going to be what we're going to be going over during our weekly meetings. So the first live Zoom session, we're going to go over the syllabus and course structure, and we're going to be reviewing endocrine anatomy and the lectures above, right? You can choose to attend either Monday from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. or Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 1:20 p.m. They are identical sessions. So the links for those, I've already showed you where they are on Blackboard. Now, labs. The first lab is actually going to be an in-person lab. The first day of class, either attending on Monday or Wednesday, Monday night, Wednesday morning, that's a required day. Now, I'll take attendance at the end of that day, and that's what will get you the lab credit. It'll also get you your first chunk of extra credit for attending the one of the 2 weekly study sessions. Remember, they're identical sessions. So, week 1 wrap-up. Notice at the end of each week it says weekly wrap-up, week 1, week 2, week 3, and it tells you what's due that week. The due dates for the first 15 weeks, not 16 weeks, but for the first 15 weeks, meaning the overwhelming majority of the class, are always going to be Sunday at 11:59 p.m. for everything. That doesn't mean that you can't submit that stuff early. I've done that because some people have free time during the week, and those people tend to submit early. Some people have free time during the weekend. It's a way to make sure you're keeping pace with the class, because this is not the type of class that you want to get behind in. So when we go to week 2, again, you get a breakdown of everything that's happening, and then you get your week 2 wrap-up. You go, well, what's due today? Okay, so Chapter 16 quiz over the endocrine system is due, and Lab 1, we're going to do in class together. We're not going to do the endocrine module, but the lab 1 will be from that first day of class. You come to 3. Okay, so this is what we're going over. This is the lab, and this is what's due on Sunday. This is what I need to be doing. This is the lab, and this is what we're going to be covering in our announcements, and then this is what's due. Now, on test weeks, you're going to see the week 4 wrap-up, for example, Lab 3, Quiz 2 over Chapter 17, and then you're going to see a red highlighted box. This means that an exam is coming up. The Unit 1 exam will cover material from Unit 1, Unit 2 will be Unit 2, Unit 3 will be Unit 3, Unit 4 will be Unit 4. There will be no comprehensive in the class. So if you notice, it says Exam 1 made available on Friday, September 17th at 8 a.m. and will remain available until Sunday, September 19th at 11:59 p.m. There are 2 parts to the exam. You can take the exam any time within that window, right? You can take it Friday right at 8 a.m. when it opens up, or you can slate at least 3 hours for the multiple choice and the short answer on Sunday night and submit it at 11:58 p.m. Doesn't matter. You can take it within that 3-day window. Again, you're going to be using the Respondus Lockdown browser. One of the trends I want you to see is that for the overwhelming majority of the class, things are going to be due Sunday at midnight. The week's work, the formally submitted work, is going to be due Sunday at midnight. We're going to go over these things in just a minute so you have a better idea of how the platform reads. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions on the quiz that just says, which of the following would be due on Sunday, September blank or October blank? What I'm really saying is, hey, have you looked at this schedule, gone to the weekly wrap-up for that day, and looked at everything that's going to be due that Sunday at 11:59 p.m.? You'll know what I'm saying when you get to the orientation quiz. So that's the schedule. The schedule is super duper important. Now the schedule tells you, here's the link for the orientation quiz, by the way. Again, quizzes don't require the Respondus Lockdown browser, exams do. Here we come down to Unit 1 material. So you have lecture material. Chapter 16, endocrine block. This is everything for Unit 1. So Unit 1, oh my goodness. Unit 1, we have lecture material, lab material. If we go to the lecture material, this is everything for Unit 1. This is the first 4 weeks, essentially, of the class right here. So we're going to spend 2 weeks on endocrine. Now, you have Lecture 1, Lecture 2, Lecture 3, Lecture 4, and Lecture 5. Now, I've made the due dates for quizzes such that we've covered the entirety of a unit before you have to take the quiz. Again, refer back to your schedule. Where do you access those quizzes? They're always going to be in something that looks like this. So here we have the Chapter 16 Endocrine System quiz, and you can take that quiz and you don't need the Respondus Lockdown browser. Now, if we go back just one, back to here, the Zoom sessions that we're going to be doing are all going to be recorded and uploaded for you. Those live Zoom sessions are going to be posted here. The reason that there are no links there yet is we haven't had a synchronous class session yet. As those synchronous class sessions pop up, everything for endocrine will populate under endocrine, blood under blood, heart under heart, etc. So, now I said each lecture has a lecture and an associated lecture handout. So Lecture 1, Endocrine Basics. You go here and you get a few things. You got to wait for a while. There we go. So you have the lecture. This is a YouTube video. You can go directly to YouTube and access that lecture. You can watch it directly from here. I recommend maybe going to YouTube or expanding your screen so you can blow that up. You have the PowerPoint off which the lecture was made, which many people like to have to track along with the lecture and make their own notes so they don't have to make notes twice. And then you have a lecture handout. Now, that lecture handout I keep talking about is going to be your study guide for an exam. And it's not traditional just guided notes, although there is an aspect of that. it walks you through the important points at periodic intervals during the lecture, like follow along one. What's the difference between an endocrine and an exocrine gland? What is a hormone? The definition of a hormone. What three capabilities are unique to the nervous system and the endocrine system? Follow along number 2. Label the organs of the endocrine system above. Follow along number 3. I would, even though you do not have to submit these, I would highly recommend doing them. I would highly recommend doing them because those are going to form the basis of exams, and I pull equally from different content areas on exams. If you notice in endocrine, there are 5 lectures, right? Well, there are 5 short answer questions on the endocrine system, 1 pulled from each lecture, right? So it's a very comprehensive exam you're going to take. And every single lecture is going to have an associated PowerPoint and handout. I'd highly recommend having those handouts out as you go through it. Again, if you look at the blood section, it's set up exactly the same. We're going to be spending a couple weeks on blood. You can look at your schedule to see how you should be pacing. You can look to see when the Chapter 17 quiz is due in about 4 weeks from the beginning of the class. And all of the blood Zoom sessions are going to be posted here. The reason that they do not exist there yet is we have not had a live Zoom class session yet. So we got lecture material. Lab material is a little bit different. So day 1 in lab is going to be a quick review of endocrine anatomy to the degree that you need to know it for this exam, and that's going to be the first part of a 4-hour day. Those days are going to be long, but we're going to get through it. And you just have to meet once a week, so you're actually getting out of this in a pretty good deal. Lab 2, if you look at Lab 2, it says Module 8.1, Blood Anatomy. So you go to Module 8.1 and you go, okay, what does this mean? So you have these things called objectives and guided notes. And you go, okay, Module 8.1, blood. So it says, overview, functions of the cardiovascular system, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 3 components of the cardiovascular system. Circulatory system includes what 2 organ systems? What's the composition of blood? What's plasma? What are the formed elements? Right? Your job is to fill those in. Now you can either print these out, fill them in by hand, scan them, and upload them as PDF documents, or you can download it as a Word document and type things in by hand and put in your own pointers and things in a digital format. I love it when people do it by hand because I know that they really did it. Now, where are you going to get the answers to all that? Well, this is your digital modules, and you're going to have a lot of digital modules throughout the course of the semester. So your digital modules are going to look something like this. It's going to say, what's in this module? Okay, overview of the circulatory systems, etc. You're going to start, and you're going to go, okay, the cardiovascular system is made up of the heart, blood vessels, blood. Okay, so what are the components of the cardiovascular system? That makes sense. It's a truncated version of the textbook that's designed to be interactive to try and get you actively taking notes and thinking about those things. So you'll notice that the module tracks exactly with the objectives and guided notes. So your job is going to be to go over this module, and while you're doing that, to fill in your objectives and guided notes. When you're done, save them in either PDF or Word format. If they're not in PDF or Word format, you will receive a 0 on it. If you're linking me to a Google Doc, no. Do not link me to a Google Doc. Do not force me to download software because I won't do it. PDF or Word is how you need to submit these. I'm happy to work with you. You don't have to buy a scanner. There are plenty of apps on the phone that are convert to PDF, essentially where you take a bunch of JPEGs and then convert those files to PDF. If you need help with that, I'm happy to be of assistance. So when you're done with these objectives and guided notes, you're going to come up here to the link to submit objectives and guided notes. Now you get a set of instructions here, but put simply, you click on this link and then you go to Browse Local Files. When you hit Browse Local Files, it's going to open up something remarkably similar to how you would attach a file to an email. So you're going to attach all the files you want to submit, and then once all those files are attached, you hit submit. It even gives you an opportunity to review what you're submitting before you hit that final submit button. When you submit, you'll get an email confirming you have submitted, and I am very expedient about grading. Typically, I do grading on Monday mornings. I wake up, I exercise, and then I grade, and I update everything for the week because everything is due on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So Monday mornings are typically my grading days. You'll notice that I turn around grades very, very quickly. So always be on the lookout for those grade announcements because, you may try and calculate your grade in Blackboard and go, I have a 78%, but when I factor in the entire class performance, etc., and I come out with my grade distributions, you might find you have an 81%. Always be paying attention to announcements over that. So those are the labs. That's the basic instructions for the labs. Lab 3, we'll talk about that week because it involves some data analysis, and we're going to go over that. There are study guides for each exam. If you go to Unit 1 study guide, you'll see a study guide for an exam 1 and an anatomy lab review, which go over the endocrine and the blood blocks. This is going to be purely anatomy. This is a document that's going to walk you through everything that's going to be on the exams. And finally, we're going to get to unit exams. So you'll notice that none of the exams are up yet because they're only open for 3-day windows at a time. The first exam will open Friday, September 17th at 8 a.m. and it'll close Sunday, September 19th at 11:59 p.m. So you'll have 3 days to get it done. It's going to be split into 2 sections. I would certainly make sure that you have at least 3 hours slated because these are not short exams, just so you know, just so you're aware of it. You can take the exam in any order you want. You can take the short answer and follow it with the multiple choice, or take the multiple choice and follow it with the short answer. Either way is fine by me. Now, if you go to the Unit Exams tab, the exam that is up and is going to be up and available until Sunday, September 19th at 11:59 p.m., which is the same time your exam 1 is due, is a practice exam. This is not a content exam. This is to get you familiar with the Respondus Lockdown browser. My biggest pet peeve in the world, and I may even give the class a half point of extra credit if I say, hey, what's my biggest pet peeve in the world, just to see whether you watch this video to the end or not. My biggest pet peeve in the world are people that email me at 11:30 p.m. on the Sunday the exam is due to tell me that they cannot access the exam because they can't work the Respondus Lockdown browser or something is going on. I then go back into the gradebook to check whether they took the practice exam, and they have not taken the practice exam, which is the entire purpose of the practice exam. It's to familiarize you with the software so you know what to expect on exam day. Like you're going to have your ACC ID or a driver's license. You're going to have to take a picture. You're going to have to film the environment around you. I want you to know exactly what to expect so your heart rate isn't spiked that day. That practice exam is up. It's worth a little bit of extra credit. It's intended. Its sole purpose is to familiarize you with the Respondus Lockdown browser because we are going to be using the Respondus Lockdown browser for the duration of the semester. With that said, have a good one. I wish you all luck, and I'll see you when the fall begins.